Well, I'm Dr. Michael Collender, and welcome to this series of lectures on the principles of war, otherwise known as the principles of operation or the principles of strategy. I'll be using those terms interchangeably. And the reason why I'm doing that is that these principles relate not only to prosecuting a battle against an enemy or a series of forces that are trying to overcome you, but they also are the same sorts of principles that one might apply in diplomacy or in trying to persuade a friend of something that's important for that friend to glean and potentially to change a plan or whatnot. There are a number of different applications for these principles, and I don't want you to think of them necessarily in terms of the metaphor of war, of fighting, equally making peace is an application of these principles. But what I want you to do for this series of short lectures is to focus on what I'm saying, to clear away other work that you may be doing. Don't have these lectures playing in the background, but rather focus on what I'm saying. Try to be in a situation where you don't have as many distractions. And the reason for that is what I want to do in each one of these short little lecturettes, is to explain to you the principles of operation, the principles of war, in a very concise way, because I know that right now you are working on solving a complex problem, and you have a number of things that you're doing during the week that this particular module is occurring. And I want to present to you these principles in such a way that they are easily digestible, that they're easy for you to assimilate. And then as I'm speaking, what I'd like you to do is to have in the back of your mind the particular problem that you're working on, so that you can be thinking through that problem as it relates to each of these principles, and perhaps in one of the principles that I'll be suggesting, one of the principles of strategy, you will be able to glean something from that will be helpful to you in solving the particular problem that you're working on. So the first principle that I'd like us to look at is the principle of objective. The principle of objective. And let me give you a definition for the principle of objective. It can be stated as a command. All right, and this is that definition. Direct every strategic operation toward a clearly defined, decisive, and attainable objective. Again, direct every strategic operation toward a clearly defined, decisive, and attainable objective. Let me introduce this principle with a story. All right? Imagine that we rewind the clock 70 years. Okay, 70 years. We're back in the time of World War II. The United States has declared war on Japan because the Japanese have bombed Pearl Harbor. And so the American armed forces are tasked by the president to defeat Japan. And in that tasking, the order goes from the president to the Secretary of Defense through the various chains of command to the all the way down to the man on the ground with a rifle, okay, or a machine gun. Now imagine for a moment that you are one of these low-level troops. Imagine you're a private, and as it just so happens, you happen to be a Marine, and you find yourself on a beach, and you are storming this beach in order to accomplish your objective. Now, so far, what I've described is quite reasonable, quite historic. But now imagine for a moment that as you the Marine are marching up this beach, that a piece of paper flutters down in front of you. And this has the objective of your campaign: defeat the Japanese. Okay, win this war against the Japanese. Is that possible for you to accomplish as an individual? Well, clearly the answer is no. And this is one of the key principles, or one of the key aspects of this principle of objective, which is that some objectives just simply are not feasible. They're just, you can't do them. Now, is that objective a feasible objective? Yes, but not for the private on the beach. That private has a specific objective underneath this main objective. And to understand the principle of objective accurately, it's important to understand whether one is defining an objective for the private or for the entire mission. And then there are subsets of different objectives all the way down. As you are thinking through the principles of operation, the principles of strategy, if you want to win a conflict or win a situation where you're trying to work through a problem to a solution, it's important to understand and accurately define an objective that has three qualities. And in some ways we can even break them down to two. But it needs to be clearly defined, decisive, and attainable. And so always be thinking in terms of your objective being strategic and feasible. Strategic and feasible. Is what I'm doing strategic and feasible? Can I actually take this particular ground, this territory, this area, and hold it? If you answer that question accurately, you are practicing the principle of objective. And the full economy of your entire campaign, mission, plan should be directed toward accomplishing that objective.